Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sarah Spinks.
Welcome to today's safeguarding conversation. Today we're exploring something that's reshaping childhood in ways many adults haven't even realised. The impact of influencer culture on children's self-esteem. Years ago, comparisons as young people, it was all about magazines or TV shows. But now it's happening every day. On phones, in bedrooms, on the bus to school, young people are watching influencers who feel relatable, but often project an ideal that's filtered, sponsored, and far from real.
Exactly. You know, these influencers, some just a few years older than the children watching them, they create these highly polished content. But young viewers don't always see the edits or the sponsorship deals. They just see perfection and wonder why they don't match up.
And this isn't just us theorising. I mean, in 2023 Girl Guiding Girls Attitudes Survey, 62% of girls aged 11 to 21 said they feel pressured to look or behave in a certain way because of influencers or celebrities online. So, Sarah, what does other research out there tell us?
Well, the girl guiding research is not an isolated statistic. A 2022 study in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that even brief exposure to idealised Instagram content lowered body appreciation in teenage girls, especially when the images came from influencers. And it's not just girls. The Children's Society Good Childhood Report showed that children who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media are twice as likely to report low well-being.
It seems it's about a constant comparison, isn't it? You know, and the kind of highlight reel effect of these posts, you know, seeing only the best bits of someone else's life and assuming that that's the reality, you know. And I think this has a massive impact on self-worth, especially for vulnerable or neurodivergent young people, you know, who already struggle to decode social cues. So let's drill down a little bit. What does this actually look like in pupils? What might staff notice, Sarah?
Well, some signs include constant comparison, you know, children saying, I'll never look like that, or they're perfect. You might hear pupils obsessing over followers, filters, or talking about glow-ups. That's a really new phrase that you hear a lot now.
What's a glow-up, Sarah?
Well, a glow-up is where you actually make yourself look an awful lot better than you know, so it's the use of makeup, it's use of clothes, it's literally glowing up from your ordinary look to this idealised look.
Gosh. And there's also the more subtle stuff, isn't there? Like, you know, refusing to be in photos unless filters are applied, or just refusing changes in appearance, mimicking influencer behaviour. I know I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Or sudden mood shifts after being online.
And it's not always the loudest children. You know, some of the most affected are those quiet ones, those that are already struggling with confidence or trying to find where they fit in. I think they're the ones that are most influenced by influencer culture, really.
So let's talk about which pupils might be more vulnerable to this pressure.
Well, without a doubt, children with low self-esteem, as you've said before, social difficulties or challenging home lives are particularly affected. You know, many seek that validation online when they don't feel they're getting it in real life. I mean, there's been amazing programmes on TV about this. There's a great one with Kate Winslet, Ruth, about her relationship with her daughter, who was being, who was going to extreme lengths watching influencer culture online and how it had an impact on her.
Right. And also, going back to what I was saying earlier, neurodivergent pupils, they might find, influencer norms really confusing or overwhelming, especially when they're trying to mimic behaviours that they don't fully understand.
And boys feel this too, by the way. Influencer culture isn't just about beauty. It's about status, lifestyle, fitness, masculinity, and we've seen that massive rise within that misogynistic manosphere, which is a lot to do with influencer culture. So everybody is being targeted in different ways.
Yeah. So what can schools and adults do to support children who are having to navigate? I'm just very conscious as an adult, we are trying to navigate this.
Exactly.
But how do we support children that are navigating this landscape, Sarah?
Well, I think the first step, Sam, is, to talk about it. Be open, honest, talk about it. Make influencer culture a part of the media literacy or PSHE. Help children understand how content is created, planned, filtered, often monetised, in a similar vein that you would in your RSHE talk about the pornography industry as being an idealised form. So, and I think teaching critical thinking is a crucial aspect of this. Ask, what is real here? What is being sold? Who benefits? And that question alone can sometimes change how a young person views what they see online. And I think also then let's celebrate what's not online. What are those key traits of kindness, creativity, effort, resilience? Those things aren't likes based, but they matter more.
And I think it's about, and this is probably going to sound terribly old-fashioned, but I'm just thinking it's also about encouraging offline hobbies, sports, drama, nature, creativity, anything that builds identity beyond appearance and popularity.
Very practically, challenge harmful trends. If it's unrealistic beauty standards, gender stereotypes, or toxic role models come up in conversation, call them out with compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose there's something about, because I do often reflect on some of the quite toxic influencer content that's out there. And I think it is challenging. It's having the confidence to challenge and think, I'm actually not impressed by this guy or whatever. I think he's a bit of an idiot, really.
Yeah.
But it's having, as an adult, we can do that quite easily. It's very, very hard for young people.
Hard when you're young. Very hard.
To do that. I suppose also it's about just once you try and kind of adopt that attitude and environment, it's keeping that door open, isn't it? Children need a safe adult who listens without judgment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But
it's helping them. It's helping them to make sense of what they're feeling.
It's exactly, that's what I was just about to say, making sense of that. And I think also it's important to note, Sam, that not all influences are negative. They're not all negative.
Absolutely.
Many do promote mental health, confidence, inclusion. But when children are constantly exposed to filtered success, and I think that's important, that filtered success, it can be it can really quietly erode their self-esteem.
That's a really good point, and I'm glad you raised that, because there is content out there that is really supportive and it's not all negative, as you say. But I think what we do have to realise is influencer culture, whatever that is, whatever form that is, it is shaping childhood and it's doing it in real time. I think it's important to have early conversations, good, strong school ethos, honest adult guidance. Then we can help children focus less on chasing the perfect image and more on valuing who they already are. So if this has resonated with you, I hope you'll go away and have conversations with your friends, your family, and your work colleagues. And let's keep the conversation going in classrooms, staff rooms, and at home. Self-worth should never depend on what's trending.